Action!
Good day everyone. In this video, we will be talking about deliberative process method. First, let's define what deliberative process is. So, according to Ferron, we define a deliberative process as a process allowing a group of actors to receive and exchange information, to critically examine an issue, and to come to an agreement which will inform decision making. To deliberate means to carefully think or talk something through. It is also means slow and measured, the pace of this kind of careful decision making. If you choose deliberately, you make a very conscious, well thought through choice. With effective public communication, a deliberative process can be a mechanism for the broader public to learn about an issue. Beyond explaining and attempting to predict public's behaviors and motivations for processing risk messages, the deliberative decision-making process can guide communication development based on understanding what is required to create and sustain an atmosphere of tolerance, with plural viewpoints seen as legitimate. The first trend: deliberative processes are viewed as tools of democratic governance. Emphasis is generally placed on the participation of civil society in government decision-making. Examples: to define a problem, identify priorities, allocate resources, or evaluate the implications of various policy options. The second trend: deliberative processes are viewed as tools for promoting the use of research-based knowledge to guide decision-making. The model consists of three major steps to understand the areas of divergences and potential for convergence among stakeholders and various publics.
Examples of deliberative processes. The use of evidence-informed deliberative processes of HTA agencies.
Policymakers in countries around the world face major challenges when it comes to making choices on which health technologies to implement and which ones not. Budgets are limited and making choices is unavoidable. Moreover, not all technologies may be desirable. In making these decisions, policymakers are confronted with divergent interests and strong pressures from many different stakeholders. For example, patients want the best available treatment. Health workers are concerned about the implementation, and manufacturers want to put their technologies on the market. Policymakers are accountable to the populations they serve. They are therefore expected to organize fair processes, so that all people affected by decisions can find these processes reasonable and confer legitimacy. In practice, organizing such processes is often done by HTA agencies. However, many HTA agencies are struggling on how to best realize this. Their processes often involve stakeholders and are informed by evidence, but the way this is organized is not ideal in terms of legitimacy. Often stakeholders' involvement is not meaningful or late, and relevant values are not identified in time or not at all. Also, the collection of evidence is often incomplete and relates only to a limited set of values, including safety, effectiveness and cost-effectiveness. Radboud University Medical Center responds to this struggle of HTA agencies. It provides them with practical guidance on how they can best organize their processes under the header of evidence-informed deliberative processes, in interaction with stakeholders and researchers. These processes are not entirely new, but combine the strengths of two increasingly popular frameworks for priority setting: accountability for reasonableness and multi-criteria decision analysis. Evidence-informed deliberative processes require the better integration of already commonly used principles in HTA. On the one hand, they are based on early, continued stakeholder deliberation to identify all relevant values and to foster a shared understanding among stakeholders of these values. On the other hand, they are based on rational decision-making through evidence-informed evaluation of the identified values. The use of these processes has important implications for how HTA agencies organize their processes, which stakeholders are involved and how values are identified, which evidence needs to be collected, how deliberation is organized, how recommendations are developed, how these are communicated, and how stakeholders can appeal against decisions. This also has specific implications for research on health technology assessment. HTA researchers should no longer provide a standard set of evidence on safety, effectiveness, and cost-effectiveness of technologies. Instead, they should interact better with policymakers and stakeholders and organize their evidence collection accordingly. Radboud UMC is now developing practical guidance on how agencies can best organize their processes. Depending on their specific context, these agencies can choose to take smaller or bigger steps to improve the legitimacy of their decisions. For more information and collaboration, see the Revise 2020 project at www.niche1.nl.
Elicitation of values and criteria by stakeholders groups.
Elicitation of values and criteria by stakeholders group of deliberative process model. What is a deliberative process? Deliberative process is a process allowing a group of actors to receive and to exchange information, to critically examine an issue, and to come to an agreement which will inform in decision making. Ang deliberative process ay isang proseso nagpapahintulot sa isang pangkat ng mga artista na makatanggap at makipagpalitan ng impormasyon upang suriin ang isang issue at upang magkaroon ng isang kasunduan na magsasabi sa paggawa ng isang desisyon. What is purpose of deliberation? Deliberation connects people, even those with conflicting interests, in a way that allows them to make decisions and act in regard to problems or challenging circumstances. Deliberation can also reveal new possibilities for action the individuals alone did not see before. The deliberative value formation model is a new theoretical model for deliberative valuation informed by social psychological theory. It also provides a methodological template for designing deliberative valuation processes. It also enables more rigorous or legitimate the deliberative valuation. It provides for more effective incorporation of plural values into valuations and decision making.
The deliberative process model consists of three major steps to understand the areas of divergence and potentials for convergence among stakeholders and various publics. The first one is the elicitation of values and criteria by stakeholder groups. First, we need to know what is the meaning of stakeholder groups and elicitation. Elicitation means getting information or response from someone, while the stakeholder groups is a group of individuals or organizations whose decision or actions can affect the action of an organization. The important goal of elicitation of values and criteria by stakeholder groups is to predict what is the knowledge of publics in risk communication. The stakeholder group get information or response, judgment or evaluation, or simply collecting data or information by asking the publics or individuals through a questions or an interview. Stakeholder groups also need to analyze and interpret the gathered information so that they will know the idea of publics about the risk communication.
Provision of performance profiles for each policy option by experts.
Provision of performance profiles for each policy option by expert. Performance profiling has been proposed as means of understanding perspective of his or her own nations of selves as performance. This study represents the first attempt to validate the use of quantitative performance profile. A coaching tool for pinpointing strengths and weaknesses, designing training strategies as building better communication. Evaluating strengths and weaknesses is a valuable process that can help in the planning of training and the identification of long-term goals as a focus of self-improvement. Performance profiling goes out to all organizations wanting to improve their result by better defining the work that need to be done. It is useful for organization in any stage, from large entrepreneur to a large organization. Performance profiling can even be used in innovative and cross-functional teamwork.
Both programs evaluation and performance measurement are increasingly seen as ways of contributing information that informs performance management decision. Performance management, which is sometimes called result-based management, has emerged as an organizational management approach that is part of broad movement of new public management, also called as NPM. In public administration that has had significant impacts of governments worldwide since it came into the scene in the early 1990s. NPM is premised on the principle that emphasizes the importance of stating clear program and policy objectives, measuring and reporting program and policy outcomes, and holding managers, executives, and politicians accountable for achieving expected.
Evaluation and design of policies by a random sample of citizens.
Evaluation and design of policies by a random sample of citizens. The aim is to develop policies and design services that respond to individuals' needs and are relevant to their circumstance. Concepts such co-creation and co-production have emerged to describe the systematic pursuit of sustained collaboration between government agency, non-government organization, communities, and individual citizens. But genuine engagement in the co-production of policy and service requires major shifts in the culture and operation of government agencies. It demands of public servants in skills or enables negotiators and collaborators. It demands of citizens an orientation to the public good, a willingness to actively engage, and the capabilities needed to participate and deliberate well.
Deliberative theory grants more importance to the process where participant views and beliefs evolve through debate and interactions. The concept of participation and deliberation are not mutually inclusive, meaning that deliberative processes are not necessarily participatory, and vice versa. For instance, a deliberative process can be carried out behind closed doors with the involvement of a limited number of decision makers and experts. However, complex environment problems, because of their associated risks, uncertainties, and complexity, often require input from deliberation among various actors such as scientists, policymakers, stakeholders, indigenous people, and the public. Insight from the risk management literature suggests that the objective nature and complexity of the management problem can inform who should be involved in a participatory engagement process.
Importance of the deliberative process model.
Hello sir, hello classmates. Yung topic ko ngayon is about importance of deliberative process model. The importance of deliberative process model is it connects people, even those with conflicting interests, in a way that allows them to make decisions and act in regard to problems or challenging circumstances. And sinasabi dito na ganito po yun, ang kahalagahan ng deliberation process model ay pag-ugnayin ang mga tao sa paanong paraan sa pamamagitan ng nabibigyan niya ng solusyon ang mga komplikadong bagay, tsaka responsable or mabisa din po siya sa paggawa ng mga desisyon. For example po, ganito po yan. Sa mga may isang worldwide views model of deliberative process na makikita na talagang doon na napaka-complex ng issue nila. Talagang parang kahit sino wala nang makaka-resolve dun sa naturang problema. Kaya, ganun pa man, ang deliberative process model ang siyang kumilos upang mabigyan ng daan ang mga di pagkakaunawaan. For example, sa mga company, sa mga businesses, ayan, sa kanila sila lumalapit upang mabigyan ng solusyon yung mga problema niya. For example, yung isang justice may kinakampihan, parang ganun, hindi siya fair. Ayan, pinupuntahan nila yung deliberative process model. Kung sa gayon ay makuha nila yung justice na para sa kanila. Ganun po. Yun lang po. Thank you.